Hi, everybody. It's
Push
Friday
record.
night, and that means it's another episode of the Redox 5. So let us know as we're getting settled. Let us know who you are and where you're joining us from so that we can welcome you because we have people joining us from all over the
Yeah.
world. And look at how many are already coming in. So let's
Woohoo.
take a look. This is
There's too
exciting.
many.
Too many. I mean, we got Illinois, we got Texas, New
Yeah.
Mexico,
California,
Colorado.
Canada,
Uh,
Yeah.
Australia,
Yeah,
um,
Bali. Oh my
Philippines.
gosh, if you're at Ascent in Bali, please.
Oh
I mean,
my
Dr.
gosh.
Mark is amazing, but go look at a sunset or something. That's hilarious.
And what time is it over
yeah, what
there?
time is it in Bali?
Well, it's probably maybe they're waking up and having croissants or something. I don't know. Maybe early in the morning. So we have New
Okay.
Zealand in the house, South Australia, Philippines. This is so exciting. Thank you, everybody, for
Yes.
taking the time to
Yes.
join us. We have an amazing show for you tonight. I am Dr. Maureen Hayes. You probably don't know who I am because I've been missing in action for quite a bit, just playing a little bit of hooky. But I am from Galveston, Texas. And of course, I'm joined by Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. Jim is our big money man, and Ann is our beautiful nutritionist and personal trainer. And of course, we have the incredible Dr. Lee Osler. He is just a prolific writer, best-selling author, as we like to say. And I'm actually doing a little thing with my team with
Oh, yeah.
not his latest, but why it matters. He's got a whole group of books from Redox Matters, Healthy Matters, Why It Matters, and then the very last one that he has done, which is Anti-Fragile. So makes you hard to kill. Love the book. Anyway, and he's
Mhm.
joining us from Washington State, and he is a dentist, besides being an author, a dentist extraordinaire, and just brilliant scientist. And tonight, we have a very special guest. I had the opportunity to be on the webinar that he was a part of with Alan Noble. I think it was probably close to a year ago. It's been a little bit of time. And honestly, it was the most well attended Zoom, I think, in the history of all of the Zooms that we have done. I think there were close to 1,000 people on the live webinar. People were just clamoring for this information because Dr. Brincat is not only a chiropractor and has been a chiropractor for 30 years, so incredible fund of knowledge when it comes to the spine, spinal cord, nerves, all of that, but also maps the brain. So he is very much into neural activity, what's going on in the brain, what is affecting the brain. And he's going to be bringing some information to us tonight about how our products, in his experience, affect the brain and the brain activity. I've seen some of it. Some of you have seen it as well. He's on realredoxresults.com. It's number 154. Just absolutely fascinating what he's going to be sharing with us. So, Dr. Brinket from Naples, Florida, come on, give us your background, tell us how you got involved with this, and then take us down that road. And if you don't mind, we're going to pepper you with questions because this is just an incredibly fascinating subject. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you, Maureen, and thank you everybody for actually having me here. I've been watching you guys for years, so it's an honor to actually be a guest now on your show. As Dr. Maureen said, I am a chiropractor. I've always specialized in brain and spinal health and trauma. And unfortunately, I got into an accident myself and left me disabled for many years. You know what? Let me just go ahead and share a quick glimpse of that. My wife and I were in a head-on collision with an 18-wheeler, and she broke her neck. I shattered my pelvis, ripped the muscles off my legs, lost a third of my intestines, and shredded my spine in 11 areas. It took me 17 years to finally crack the code and get all of my abilities back. And it was a long road, knowing all that I know. I was very stubborn, didn't want to take any meds or do that traditional mask the symptom approach. I needed to know where my body was and if I was improving or not. And I'd do 3 steps forward, a couple back, and it was a lot of peaks and valleys throughout that. And at the worst part of all of it, when I was confined to a chair and people had to take care of me all the time, I was losing hope. And then I realized, the body is an absolutely amazing thing. and it's making new cells all the time. So I can accept the fact that these cells are damaged and have been through a lot, but hey, the next one down the pipeline, it has an opportunity to be better than this one. And if I just put my focus into making those better, I think I'll find my way out of this chair. And so it was 11 years ago this year that I finally got my legs back, my arms, all my abilities, and broke free from 17 years of living in constant discomfort. Let's just say it that way. Agonizing, excruciating discomfort. And it was that same year that I met Jack and Sherry Clark, and she ended up as a patient on my table and asked me, do you do this therapies and that? And we're talking about all the fun technologies that she's used in her life and I've been using in my practice all these years. So we were kindred spirits right from the get-go. And then when she asked me, what about redox signaling molecules? And I said, why don't I know about that? What is that? And she explained it to me. And, thank God I was open-minded and my guard was down and I accepted it in to see really, truly what it was. And so with me personally, I was already out of my chair. I was off my meds, but I was still living a very limited life. And it wasn't very far after, probably within 2 to 3 months after I started taking all this, I noticed that my limitations weren't even present anymore. I used to be able to walk a couple hundred yards. Now I could walk miles. I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds. Now I'm lifting things. I was just blown away. So bringing it into my practice 10 years ago, we have a very strong neurofeedback practice where we do brain mapping and we can see which parts of the brain are inflamed or oxidized and too slow or too fast. And then we can use that kind of as a GPS to target how we're going to fix it. And so we hook up wires to the brain and you're basically controlling the movie that you're watching from 4 different positions in your brain. Whether you're doing what I want you to do, I'll let you see and hear the movie. If you're doing what you want to do, it's going dark on you. So long story short, globally today, it is still about 30 minutes, 20 to 30-minute treatment twice a week, as they say all the brain can handle. Because out of all the mitochondria in your body, we all know that your brain has 2.5 million per cell. So it's putting off a lot of exhaust. And when you're working it, you're creating even that much more oxidative stress. So as a patient doing the therapy, you're just watching movies and then all of a sudden your face will get flush. You'll start to feel a little pressure in your head. And if you don't stop training right away, you'll end up with a headache the rest of the day. And so you're actually targeting and growing tissue up until that point, but we don't want to push you over the side. And now, after learning all about redox, what was happening is oxidative stress builds up and builds up over that 20 minutes. And once your body realizes that the fire extinguisher isn't putting it out, it calls the fire department. And then you feel flush and you feel pressure start to build. Well, you've already switched to inflammation. So you have to stop training immediately. Well, here's the thing. I would start giving people a shot glass of ASEA before they start training, and I'm watching and they never hit a wall. I literally have transformed the art of neurofeedback 10 years ago to the point where I have patients can do 4 hours a day, 30 days in a row for a month and squeeze 2 years of training into 1 month. And it's only because of these molecules. It's keeping the oxidation and inflammation at bay. And no matter how far they keep going, they can just keep sipping on that and keep going. And the recovery is just, it's already present. Like they don't have to take a day off and feel so exhausted. And so it's transformed how fast we can take people that have had any types of brain issues where they feel decline, they feel things that they haven't been able to do, that they used to be able to do real fast and easy. It's amazing to see it come back to life. And so I have this secret weapon called redox molecules that can let you have wings to just keep going and going. And so it's been an absolute incredible journey. I look around and I'm like, how come every neurofeedback doctor doesn't use this? I don't get it. You
Nobody's
have the
built them.
ability to get people better, faster, and keep them well, and you're not doing it. Why is everybody so close-minded? And so they just don't believe it or they don't understand it.
let me ask you a couple of questions because
Sure.
this is fascinating. So you got into this because of your own challenges, your own health challenges, and having had that accident, correct? So you kind of
Well, no, I was already a chiropractor and I was
oh
already
yeah, that.
fascinated in the brain. So I was in
Okay.
practice treating brain and spinal trauma patients and then had to become my own patient.
Right. And but you use these techniques to kind of help yourself, help your own brain.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, fascinating. And also, it's interesting because when you're doing this training, which I'm assuming has to do with neuroplasticity and kind of
Correct.
growing the different neural pathways and all. So the actual healing, or if we can use that, actually causes some oxidative stress. Is oxidative stress part of the healing, kind of like we talk about, or Dr. Lee always talks about hormesis, where you're kind of poking the bear, you're stressing the body so that the response to it helps with that healing process. Is that going on?
No, I understand. I understand the line of thinking in which you're saying, but it's more along the lines of we can see areas that you have regulated your brain to be normal, to be overexcited. Okay, let's just say somebody has attention issues and they focus on a lot of things at the same time and it's hard to not be distracted. Their frontal cortex is resonating at a much higher frequency. Okay. And so and let's say the back of their brain's having memory issues. So both of the back sides of the brain are too low. And so we're not creating oxidative stress like working out the muscle. Now it goes into healing mode. We're simply suggesting to the brain, hey, if you can calm down a little bit in the front, I'll feed you your movie. And it does it within 100th of a second, disciplines or rewards. And so your brain, basically, get hooked up for 2 minutes. It measures where you're at and then it locks it in. And then the software knows to constantly keep challenging you. Because the only time you know you grow new brain tissue is when you're just able, like the carrot in front of the horse, you're just barely able to get it. And whether you're learning something or doing training, if you're learning something, you're trying really hard to learn it and you're just barely able to grasp it, that's when you're growing new tissue. And so we want to put you into that state where you're having fun, but yet being challenged. And so the brain will see you have 4 areas that each control 25% of the dimming. And so the brain sees an optimal viewing experience. Then it says, okay, let's start driving that front down. So it drops it a little bit and immediately it goes dark and the brain's like, hey, we had an optimal viewing experience. I think this is suboptimal. What happened to my picture? Oh, there it is. It's back. And so your brain's like, oh, I did that to get it back. And so it knows right at the edge and it keeps challenging you until you're just so fatigued. I can't keep up anymore. And you're like, I'm quitting. And your brain starts to go back up to where it was. It says, oh, I'll raise that threshold and give it bright again. Just stay with me a little longer. And so it's constantly challenging you down and challenging it back up to keep you at that homeostasis as long as we can. And as long as you're getting rewarded 70% of the time and 30% of the time it's dark, then you're in that sweet spot where you're growing the most new tissue. And we can track how much new tissue grows versus how much of just reorganizing the brain happens. And so
Wow.
it's really suggesting to the brain, hey, like the Pied Piper is singing a song, and all the mice are like, I love that song, and they keep following them. Your brain loves it when it hears another brainwave nearby. Oh, that brainwave. Oh, I love playing in that zone. And so it'll just easily follow if you're guiding it through the right path. And then redox just makes it
Pretty
magical
cool.
because we're not causing inflammation as hard as we're training. It just stays hydrated and it stays from flipping into the inflammation where everybody has to stop.
Great. And one more question. And I know you have some slides and all to share with us. How is this being done? Are you wearing like a some sort of helmet, or is there something that you're looking at when you're doing? Oh, yay!
Yes, I did.
This sounds awesome. I'm going to go to Naples.
Chase them off, Maureen.
All right, so this is called the
Oh my God.
Cognionics Freedom 20,
Wow.
and it's wireless and it's a dry cap. So I've gone into CEOs of companies, executives, actors, and famous people right at lunch and put this on their head, map them, and then just on my merry way. There's no shower needed. They don't have to redo their hair or anything. And so we
Wow.
have
Wow.
19 channels around the head. Now, let me just say, I've done about 10,000 brain maps with the wet cap. that takes about an hour or so to do because you put all the gel in and all the wires. Since
Okay.
I've gotten this back in 2017, I've probably done 20,000 maps in a third of the time. And so
Are
it's
those
so much
electrodes,
faster.
Dr.
These
Mark?
are microphones. So there's no like input to you. I'm just listening intently and then reconstructing a 3D image of your brain to the tune of 12,800 little cubes of brain tissue. And I can tell you what each one's doing or not doing neurologically.
Well, people wouldn't
So
know how much this costs. Yeah, we're going to line up. We all have to get into this, y'all, and get this done. So, wow, that is so fascinating. Okay, I'm done. Go ahead and keep
all
going.
right, so
Exciting.
let me go ahead and share the screen again. And I was part of the Gold launch when we went out to Utah, and we were so blessed to be able to get the first dab of it. I guess there were some people that were in the trial, but when they first brought it to us, I was there, and I was waiting a long time to try this. And so, for me personally, you know what, before I even show this, let me just share my personal. I have been out of my chair for 11 years, and I say that I'm pain free, but it takes a few hours of therapy every morning to maintain this ability out of my chair and feeling good. And it's usually towards the end of the day, hands and feet start really lighting up on me, and neck and so forth, so forth. And so over the years, I have learned that 16 ounces of ASEA each day, I go 24 hours without any discomfort. If I drop it or I go on vacation and I don't bring it, and I only have the gel with me or what have you, I have about 12 to 24 hours before I literally start to fall apart. So it has been such a cornerstone of my existence back from the dead, let's just say, and able to love and serve on people like I always did before. When I got this product, I had been traveling for 2 days. I've been on the planes and layovers and all these things, and I wasn't feeling good. I'm usually pretty good during the day. It's at nighttime that things will start to wear off. But this was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was probably a pain level 7. And so, not my typical 9 or 10, but it was annoying enough that I'm here and I can't wait to try this. When are they going to give it to us? I really need to do it. Honestly, I put a size of a pea on my finger, and then I tucked my chin to open up my spine so I knew I would get it into the spine there. And I just rubbed it on there, and within less than 2 minutes, it was gone. And it didn't come back for 3.5 days. And I'm like, this is crazy. What is it doing? Like, we know it's the nerve, the NRF2 gene, inflammation oxidation pathway, and I know that it's doing that, but it was like I didn't have to drink 16 ounces, and I just did this little dab. Now, granted, I tried to see if I could, how long I could go without drinking it, and after about a week, the Gold wasn't even working for me. So it's like you have to maintain the cells of your body, and then this is that extra, and it's not so much all the function of the cells you're putting on. It's just trying to get the inflammation out so the body can then kick in the restore process and the rejuvenation process. So this was tremendous. So as soon as I got home, I started grabbing patients and doing my own little review. So this isn't an independent clinical study that's been published. This is just my review. I took a handful of patients. So there was the first 5 people. I did the same thing that I did with me, only I put it on the brain stem at the top of the back of the neck rather than at the area where I was having issues. And I waited 15 minutes and I mapped it again. I was certain that we were going to see some changes, and not a lot of things don't change the brain for the better. Let me just tell you, sometimes things need to stir things up before we see it get better. But when we see things that have a very profound impact on the brain, I get really excited because I have patients all over the world that are really wanting to get better and they want to get back. And if you're not looking at the brain health component of your whole picture, it's like this big black hole that you're missing. And so much can be affected when the brain returns to homeostasis. Like we've always said, your body, with you making redox, is 2 reasons. Bring the body to homeostasis and then heal. But all the energy is going to work at keeping you in your vital signs first before it spends a whole lot of extra energy overcoming an old injury. And so the longer we can stay in that sweet place, oh, we have so much resilience. We got all this extra workers in there doing the healing. So here's what I found when we started looking at the gold. And so
Hey,
as I said,
Dr.
this is
Mark,
just,
real quick. Hey, I'd like to go ahead and have Dr. Osler just real quick throw in the medical disclaimer. We
Okay.
need to get that puppy in. Lee?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. This is fascinating, but we need to indicate that we are all independent associates of the company that's called ASEA Global, which is marketing a cellular health product that's regulated by the FDA on the supplement side of the equation, and therefore we don't make any claims to diagnose, treat, or cure anything, notwithstanding what you might take away. We're not making those claims. We are supporting cellular health, and anything that becomes better is a function of cellular function and health improving.
thank you for that, Dr.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, Mark, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I always say, all we can do is influence the body, but it's the body that does the healing. Okay, we
Mark.
don't heal you. Yes.
Mark, real quick, can you just do a quick explanation on you have somebody brand new come in? How do you explain what these redox molecules just the basics?
Oh, that's
For
depending
people that
on
are brand new
on
that
the
are
type of-
watching this for the first time.
Okay. So it would depend on why they're coming to see me in essence. But inevitably, it's, we're here to look at you from the 30,000 foot view to see everything that's going on with you. And then we're going to make a lot of sense for why you ended up like you are now with whatever issues that you're having now. So a lot of approaches that you may have done were to mask a symptom and get you feeling better right away, because that's just the way our healthcare is set up, but really it's just sickness care. We're here, we specialize because we're going to help you find the root of your problem. And we're going to get to the root where your body's going to start to heal. Now, what you may or may not understand is everything that harms you from the outside in, anything that's ever damaged you or affected you emotionally or physically, it came from the outside world into you. But all the healing always starts at the cell level and goes to the tissues, to the organs, to the systems, to everything else. So we're always healing from the inside out. Now, what better place to begin the healing at the inside of the cell where you're making the molecules to begin this exact process? So this is what your body does to heal itself. I'm here to teach you mechanisms of action, like how your body does the healing. Then it's easier for you to make the right decisions when it comes to what should I do first as far as course of treatment. Now, I will say I have been a health enthusiast my entire life. I've had all sorts of injuries that I've been able to overcome because I understood how the body heals itself, and I worked with that power within the body. And the more I learned and understood about these molecules, it has become my alpha product. This is the one thing that has to come first before everything else that I know, because it allows that all to work better. And so, quite frankly, if a patient isn't willing to accept and understand that this is going to be a necessary component to not just get you past this hump, but to keep you well forever, if they're not on the same page, I really can't work with that person, because I can't go at slow motion. When I know how we can do things quickly and get you better and keep you well, I want to work with that. And so sometimes it's just, well, not right now, because they know that healing takes sacrifice in other parts of your life, and you have to put time, energy, and effort into helping your body be something that it's not. We have to help and look within, and these molecules are what's going to charge your cells and then help your cells communicate to the other cells. Two very important processes. Now, here's the thing. Out of all the energy you make, half of it's charging your cells and the other half is communicating. Imagine if you didn't have to take the half to charge your cells that you made. So we're basically giving you the ability to charge your cells now, and all the stuff you're making is for extra healing. It's almost reckless not to take this supplement.
Wow.
Now, that's not a
Daily.
30-second answer, but that's typically.
Well, no, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Great.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Now you're good to go.
Thanks. All right, so when we looked at this study, it was 5 people, and these images that you're about to see are how this software can reconstruct the brain. And so the cortex is the outer part of our brain that you're seeing on the top image here. And this can process information at each little crumb size of brain tissue to the tune of about 2,000 bits of data per second. Now, the white matter inside, much more sophisticated, it's myelinated. It's going to process about 400 million bits of data per second. So it's super exciting when we see how much information can be processed. Now we understand why our human brain is only 2% of our body weight, but it takes 20% of our blood to keep it from overheating. We have so much energy being created in our brain, and it's so necessary that we keep our information being able to communicate. You know, it's that cascading effect of these redox molecules throughout your brain, how they communicate. And remember, a brain cell, it just has one function and one function only: send information until you have no charge left. Kind of like our cell phones. I'm going to get on it in the morning, I'm going to use it all day, and I'm going to talk to that very last second when the battery dies. And then I charge it when I go to bed again. Well, that's what your brain cells do. When you're sleeping, they're recharging. So now we're going to see what does that look like when we see the introduction of Redox Gold. So we did a 15-minute window. That was it. And so these next images, we were able to reconstruct the entire group as one. So the left image is all 5 people, what they all had in common. They all have this presentation in common. And then after was the right image. And so much like MRIs that you can slice from the top down, from side to side, or from front to back, you can see the different colored tissues. Now, everything is supposed to be green. If it's yellow, it's 2 deviations too fast. And when it turns red, it's 4 deviations too fast. So that's indicative of inflammation, okay? Too much blood going through there, too much nerve activity happening. And more is not better. It's bombarding those signals. On the other side of that, the light blue is 2 deviations too slow and delayed, and the dark blue is 4 or more. So when we look at just the outside of the cortex, we see a lot of red and yellow on the top. For everybody had this common inflammation. And then immediately after, a pea-sized dab of gold on the brainstem, within 15 minutes, all that inflammation is gone. You can see the side view, all the red in the top, and the red is absent. All the yellow and red here, and it's more green as well, and even in the back. So that's their nighttime brain. Their daytime brain, it was better to begin with, not quite as much red, but we certainly see more green at the end of it all. And then we go and look at eyes open. So this is daytime brain. Now, whenever we see blue, we're obviously more concerned because it's too slow. And we don't know if we can wake it up. We can always calm down a faster brain. But again, all this red at the top of that cortex is all gone. We see blue here, a lot more dark blue than there. And then that was right and left side of the brain. Okay. All right. So then we look at this. Now this is called Brodmann areas. So much like you're looking at the map of the United States, and every state has its own unique shape and border. Well, you have 88 of these regions on both sides of your brain, and each one control a very specific neurological function. And so the number of the Brodmann area is along the left, and each one you could look up and see what that area controls. For instance, number 8 is muscle learning, laughter, smiling, executive control, speech programs, generating sentences in your brain, all of that. And so the absolute difference was a whole deviation away back towards normal. So they all had this in common, and they all had this result as a group, which is quite incredible because the whole group was only about 2.5 deviations outside of normal. And in 15 minutes, it brought it a whole deviation back. So that was great. That was eyes closed. And then eyes open was very similar, but it was a little over 0.65 of a deviation. So it was a little bit less than the full deviation. But again, to see this much change, now typically to put this into context, to take that much change, we would be doing 10 to 20 hours of neurofeedback. Now granted, that change would be permanent. This is going to last a few hours and then slowly start to go back to where it was. but this will initiate that healing process to happen. And so for me personally, what I noticed is that 7 that I mentioned earlier on my scale of discomfort, within 2 minutes, it was gone. Within 15 minutes, I still felt a little something in my neck, so I put a little extra on at that point. And then it was 3.5 days later when it came back, and it came back to like a 4. So I've noticed considerable changes. That some healing definitely took place because I didn't come back to the same place that I was.
Hey,
So
Mark.
with these, yes.
Mark, are these people drinking the molecules as well, or is this just gold by itself?
No, these were people that weren't introduced to ACEA yet. So
Or
this
not?
was just the first time that they ever got experience to Redox.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great question, though. Good question.
Thank you.
When we look at networks in the brain, so we mentioned we have 88 of these regions. These are little purple dots throughout the side of the brain. And think of a network in the brain like a group text. And you got 10 of your friends, you're all texting. And if you see a line show up in the picture, that means that one person blocked another person. And you thought everybody was getting the information. So ideally, there shouldn't be any lines here, just a bunch of purple dots, if the mood network was online and working like it should, neurologically. So the more lines there are, the more apt that person is to be having issues with their mood. And so we can see, is this neurological or is it psychological? If it's psychological, it's not going to be all these lines here. It's going to have the symptom, but it's not neurologically based. So when we see this, we can understand why the person's behaving or acting a certain way because the network is telling him that's how it feels. Okay, basically it's dictating that. So as we clear, so you see the density of lines here, and within 15 minutes, over half those lines are gone. And a lot of the yellow ones, which are here, but the orange and redder ones are gone. So that is an incredible amount of change for somebody's mood in just a few seconds. The pain network. Okay, we know that it alleviates discomfort, but there's an actual network in the brain that if it's offline, you get pain over little things, where somebody else has a high pain threshold. That means that their network's online and it takes a lot to knock it off to make me feel constant pain. Now, granted, a new injury, you'll feel that for a bit as well. Now, anxiety network, we also see this improve. Now, we're not saying that this is for anxiety. We're not trying to treat a condition. We're saying that when you can take inflammation down in the brain, the networks in the brain that have been trying to talk to each other can now hear each other again. And they start coming back online and turning to homeostasis. I mean, that's what your brain wants. It just needs a little help doing it. There's also networks for headaches and migraines. And so not that these people suffered from them, but again, we're seeing improvement in the network. So that is actually very exciting to us. And so these molecules, like I said, this is my alpha product. This is something that can set the stage for an incredible speed of healing that's going to happen inside of you. I, being a chiropractor and a specialist in the nervous system and dealing with trauma, lots of car accident patients and all sorts of different types of trauma, but we do a lot of treatments and then we wait for the body to catch up. And you're like, oh, the nerves take a long time to grow. You have the most mitochondria, they're the most complex, versus your gut cells. A couple hours, we can replace that. That's easy. Nerve cells take a long time. I have never in my life, in all 30 years of practicing, seen something that could increase the speed of nerve healing. And it's really not doing that. It's just giving you more potential so your body can respond faster and it can do more in the job that it does. We know from the studies that we've seen that if you have a healthy cell and give it some of the gold, it improves 70% more function of that glutathione. And then if the cell was distressed and damaged, it was like 280% more. So your machines have the ability to turn up more when it's absolutely necessary, but it also knows that I'm not going to turn it up and leave it in the red RPMs and adapt to that because then I'll burn out and everything will shut down. And so it needs to have variables. And if you don't have enough redox potential, your organs and your cells are not sending signals to your brain telling you, you know what, you've been going full speed for a while. I think you should take a break and have a few breaths, go for a walk, have some water, and then get back to it again. If you're not getting the signals, your body will adapt with you. This is called general adaptation syndrome. And it adapts with you and says, oh, Mark says it's okay to keep working 12, 15 hours a day after day after day. We've been trying to signal him to slow down. He's not listening. So let's just adapt and not send him the signal anymore. And we'll run with him, until you just drop dead. So you have to understand that your body needs fluctuations. And when we start putting this redox in, it's so much easier to get those signals. So our body does tell me, you know what? I need to have more balance. I need to do this and calm myself down and not let this get to me. And so, redox is every aspect of every cell of our body. How exciting is that? And the fact that it's impossible for this not to work. I've heard you guys say that before. And then I've heard Dick Walker say, it's the language of the cells. It's how they communicate. And it's so much energy and so many things happening so fast. And there is so much more information being sent through signaling than our brain talking to you, and so people just don't appreciate how wonderfully and fearfully we're made and how we all could benefit from more of this.
Right.
And
Yeah, I was just going to comment on your site. You talk about the brain reorganizing. I love that word. And so you can see for better brain health, even the minimum that it says in the bottle people should do combined with gold, and even Renew 28 can be worked on, head to toe. So maybe you can talk a little bit about somebody with more of a crisis situation that they should definitely be doing a SIA, maybe 3 times a day with gold at the brainstem and wherever else they may have the more challenge. So maybe you could talk about somebody that, I'm considered a very healthy person, but someone else is not, that you may come across, and how would you tell them, do this, that, other for the next 90 days? What would you
That is a
present?
great question, and thanks for that. So when we're looking at, let's just say a new patient comes in and I have this issue and they think I can help them with it. We have kind of like a 3-stage approach to getting you well. And these first 3 stages are going to need a lot more of everything of you. You're going to need more redox. You're going to need more nutrients. You're going to need more time to invest in your healing. And you're going to have some discipline on things that you're not eating versus eating. And so there's going to be a lot more work in the first 3 months. But then after that, maintenance is going to be really easy. Okay, so just understanding that there's going to be a certain dose of redox that we need initially. And the 3 stages, if I could just be real general, we got to kill the bugs first. Your parasites, your bacteria, the viruses, we got to just go after the bugs at all costs. Then we spend the next phase increasing your immunity. And we need to do that in a very efficient way so we get all your organs and everything stronger. Both of those are going to need a lot of redox for different reasons. And then the 3rd stage is detox. We want to get heavy metals and get whatever junk and things that aren't supposed to be in your body out. You can't do that early or you're going to get sick. We want to be able to have you feel better each step of the way. And by the time you've killed the bugs and your immunity is super strong, you can do a gentle detox and not get sick and actually feel lighter and better every single day. And then we have different technologies to check throughout each of those stages to see where you're at and do we need to repeat any part of that and what have you. But then the maintenance for me is 6 ounces for everybody. It's just, it doesn't make sense to have less than 6 ounces. I really wish they'd make a 3-ounce shot glass, because that would make it really easy for everybody. I have to give that to Sherry because she said that this morning to me. So I was like,
Great
you're right.
idea.
Let's order 3-ounce shot glasses.
Yeah,
But
great idea.
that's what all the research was on the old 8 ounces from years ago. So
Right.
it's certainly, you can't take too much. So take enough at least. And you know what? Depending on your age, I might add another ounce or 2 to your regimen versus somebody that's 50 versus 70 or 80. As you remember, 1% per year. So I'm currently 55, so I'm making 45% of the molecules that I used to make when I was, say, 20 and thriving. And so that's why I used to fall down and just bounce back up and keep running. Now I fall down and I gather my thoughts for a minute and check if my toes and my fingers can still wiggle. And okay, I think I'm good. I'll roll over and slowly get up. But, as we get more and more of this potential, it's amazing to see how much faster we bounce back. And it's important to talk to people about, like the sheet that comes in your box. Like, Take the time to fill that out, because you're going to say this doesn't work. But when all these other things that maybe in this season right now are not ideal or how they've always been, if you're not looking and paying any close attention to that, when things go from bad to better, you don't notice it. You definitely notice when things go from normal to worse. But when you get better, sometimes you'll go weeks before you realize, you know what, I'm not coughing anymore, or whatever it is. And so it's important that you're not taking these molecules for this one reason you came to see me. You're taking these for your longevity. This is anti-aging. And if you really want to get better, I would think you'd want to spend the least amount of money and spend the least amount of time and get the most results. If we're tracking, then yes, let's do this. Because if you're not investing into yourself now, you're going to be paying way more money later. And believe me, I had a little glimpse into that world with over $1 million in hospital bills over the years. That's not something that you want to just think, oh, I can take care of it later. You might not have enough money to take care of it later, or time to have the body actually do what it needs to do. And so prevention is where it's at. And wouldn't you rather never have symptoms and never get sick and just live a really healthy life until it's your last day and go peacefully? I mean, that's personally how I want to be.
Yeah.
I can't.
Maureen, were you gonna have something?
Yeah, I was, I love everything
This
that
is-
you're saying.
Yeah, I know.
And I was sitting here as you were showing those studies because, I love the gold. And most people have heard my story about my arthritic fingers that have done great, and my janky hip that was supposed to be replaced that does not need anything now. It is totally discomfort free.
Oh, that's
Just
awesome.
absolutely amazed by it. But I have not, I don't have spinal problems really, as far as I can tell. Others might disagree, have any kind of brain issues. But, I just put some of the, it's hard because, your hair is back there, but
I know, mine too.
yeah. But basically at the base of the skull in the back,
Yeah,
that's where,
soft spot.
yeah, and the soft spot, right? If you run your fingers up, you'll run right into that indentation. So that's where, so for those of us, should we be doing that prophylactically? Will that,
Absolutely.
okay, so
Absolutely.
twice a day, just,
I
So
just
that
do
means
it
you
morning
do
and
every
night.
day, right?
Get out of the shower. I'm putting the Renew
Yeah.
28 because I'm bald. I put it on my face and my whole head and everything. And then I'll do the gold after.
okay.
Yeah.
And same thing at night. Just a little, you just need a little bit. And one thing that I also want to say, this gold is so concentrated and so powerful. I don't use it sparingly like I do the Renew 28. Renew 28, I want to bathe in that stuff. I don't hold back. I put as much on anywhere until it gets dry and attack. With this one, if you target the right location, you just need a little dab. And so, like, for instance, the neck, like I mentioned, wherever your neck has discomfort, you put it there. Hey, it didn't work. Try flexing your neck forward and opening your spine and put a little dab. And oh my goodness, I've had people that said it didn't work, and then all of a sudden, instantly, once they had it in the right area, or they're putting on a part of their body that hurts, and if it's not affecting it, trace that part back to your spine and put a little bit at the spine. It might not bother you there, but
Yeah.
I've had people that had pain in their feet, and they put a little dab on their brainstem, and their foot pain stopped in 2 minutes. And so that's central nervous system, brain and whole spine and whole body. Okay, you're getting it right to the, into everywhere by putting it in the master Houston control of your brain as your brainstem. Outside of that, I've had a person that had knee pain right on the inside, and he put it right where the pain was, nothing. I said, you know what, bend your knee. And I put it on the opposite side of that joint, and in 2 minutes it was better. And so you don't need to do the whole knee and rub it all around everywhere and anywhere. Just target points and see if you can narrow it down. Because once you know that, then that's the spot that you'll hit for a couple days or weeks, and then it won't be an issue anymore. You'll help your body get above it.
Yeah.
So, Mark, can you just kind of, that was one dot with what you showed us. Could you extrapolate out that if you do this every day, multiple times a day,
So
because everyone can't come see you and have that thing put on their head.
absolutely.
So,
yeah, and you don't need
so-
to have a brain scan in order to start
Thank
getting
you.
the healing in your brain. That's for sure.
That was, but could you just imagine what's going to happen to people if they do this every day and not just do it when they got a boo-boo or they have discomfort? And that's what I think was fascinating with this. Who doesn't want, and I'm an ex-stockbroker. By the way, I've had 10 back surgeries. I've had 6 levels fused in my lower back. I've got a stimulator in my back that I wish Maureen would volunteer to take it out
Yank
for
it
me.
No, you don't want to take that out. You definitely don't want to take it out. I have one too,
But I don't-
and it's never coming out because the scar tissue would cause a lot
Well,
more damage.
exactly. That's,
Yeah.
and I haven't used it. I used it for a couple of months.
Or your joke. Yeah.
But I just can't imagine what people are going to feel if they continue to use the Renew. Now, is there any particular reason why you're doing the Renew first, then the Gold? Because someone else said do the Gold first, then the Renew. Does it matter to you?
I do the Renew first. Here's reason
Okay.
why. First of all,
Okay.
it's activating all the functions of all the cells that it comes in contact with. So
Well,
it's setting the stage for the other one to go straight through without any blockage. Think of like the clay.
Oh.
The clay mask has redox that opens up all those pores so that the dirt and the oil and everything can come out. You want to set the stage with a perfect environment that says, oh, here it is, and it all just right down the right pathway.
That makes
immediately.
sense. That makes sense. Lee, you're awful quiet, which is very unusual. I want you to say something.
Well,
Just soaking it all
this has been fun to hear some different perspectives. I will say one more time what I said earlier, and that is we're not making claims to treat or cure. We've tossed around a lot of ideas here, but we're very certain that this is not therapy. What we're doing is we're improving the body and the cell's ability to do what it was designed to do in the first place. And that's a really important distinction. In the research that I've done, this whole brain cell, neuron cell kind of approach is a very intriguing one because these, as Dr. Mark has mentioned, are very mitochondria dense. They produce a lot of energy because there's a lot of demand for that energy. I remember watching my mom sit on the couch one time, and she's just like staring off in the room. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm thinking. Thinking is hard work, and our brain does hard work, and it requires a lot of energy. But one of the things that it's not very robust about is its antioxidant capacity compared to other cells in the body that are high energy. For example, the heart. Brain cells are much more vulnerable to the effects of oxidation. And as we know from the science, inflammation does not happen unless there is some kind of an oxidative or a phosphorylative type event that activates pathway genes that start the inflammatory process. And so if you're translating this, or if you want to translate all this, it's like the end goal is we're reducing the inflammatory pressure. We're taking that away. And when we do that, it requires high levels or higher levels of antioxidant capacity. And with the advent of Redox Gold, we now have the ability to actually block about 3 or 4 different inflammatory pathways that lead to the activation of these cytokine proteins that create the effects of inflammation. And so to see this kind of come together and to view it through another lens and see an application for that, with just like the thermography, that we've seen ASEA put out, which is recording skin temperatures following administration of Redox Gold. That is a functional measurement of something. It's not a therapeutic measurement, but it's telling us what's functioning, what changes are occurring, and it's giving evidence to the fact that there's changes in cellular function occurring. And so this whole conversation. One thing we know from TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, is that they now understand, and Mark can probably speak better to this than I can, obviously, from personal experience as well as his professional experience. But the oxidative storms that continue to surge in the brain over hours and days and weeks, if not months, following a traumatic brain injury is astounding. And it's taken a long time for conventional health professionals to understand that, to where they are now a little more proactive in administering antioxidants, following these trauma cases. Again, I'm not an expert in that area. I just understand that it's because when there is an event going on in the brain, whether there's trauma, disease, or whatever it is, brain cells are more fragile. They're more sensitive to inflammation and oxidation. And so everything that we're doing with the SIA is targeted at those transcription factors or switches that regulate oxidation and inflammation. So that's my 2 cents worth.
I'd like to add a little something on the concussion. Last year, I did a study that took close to 9 months where I had 60 individuals that have never been on Redox get brain mapped and then take 8 ounces a day for 90 days. And then they got remapped. And 55 people completed it out of the 60 that started it. And one of the things, a few of the people actually had concussions, a history of concussions. So I threw the concussion index. This is the software that military and professional sports use to see if you can play and be in the field. And so the black line was before they started a SIA for 90 days. And they had in the yellow, no playing for this person. You have to be in the gray to play. And you can see anxiety was affected, language was affected, his moods were affected. And then the red is 90 days later, and the body was able to reverse all of that damage of oxidative stress and all of the inflammation that was just chronic in the brain. Now, I have a couple different softwares that we can do concussions with, and we can see the damage within minutes after the trauma, where an MRI, you need to wait days for the swelling to go down before you can get an accurate image of how much damage took place. And so it truly is an oxidative, excessive oxidative stress, like you said. And when we can put excessive molecules in to neutralize that, it's just going to happen faster. You can't overheal the body. It's not going to take more of what it needs. It's obviously going to need a lot more than we're ever giving it, most likely. So the minimum amount, even 4 ounces a day, we can see significantly changes the brain. Did I share that screen and then not? You did see this screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the concussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great.
I'm of the belief, Mark, that every human has some form of post problems. They may not remember at all. And we had a gentleman I talked to a couple of days ago up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, that had a 9-year-old son that had an injury at birth. And he was using mind and mood, and his kids changed. So there's other technologies that we incorporate, and I just can't wait. You just did one 15-minute dot, and if people could incorporate and see the other, get back to the one that got you on the call tonight. But I just can't wait until you start seeing the benefits of longer term use.
Oh, absolutely.
And everyone, again, I believe they have issues with their brain, and everybody needs this. Would you not agree?
I agree. We live in a day and a time that there's just too much pollution in the air, in the water, in the food that we're eating, the empty calories in the food that we're eating. I mean, our systems are challenged so much greater than our parents' and our grandparents' systems were ever challenged, just environmentally alone. Hence why we have adult diseases now as children. That shouldn't be. Right? Our children need this just as bad as we do. We can't say, oh, you're still making plenty. You make as much as you need. You're not going to be in a deficit until you're in your 20s. Well, then why do they have all these problems? And I take care of lots of babies and kids and people on the spectrum and people in different conditions. And it's amazing how fast they respond to these molecules. I get all giddy inside because I already know what's going to happen in 30 or 90 days. And they don't know yet, but I know. And so I'm excited for them.
Yeah, Maureen, just imagine if they add the nutrition, again, self-performance, and, I mean, Matt, all of that working, we're just talking about one dot of gold in what you demonstrated, Dr. Mark, and then you start thinking of the possibilities. I love that of our founder, a possibilities thinker. I mean, maybe touch on that for a whopping minute, Maureen, and then maybe, if you don't mind, I want you to close with your ripple effect.
Well, I have to people are asking what Dr. Mark's channel is. I think they want to get rid of the rest of us and just go with Dr. Mark. Yeah, me too. Me too. Absolutely fantastic. Dr. Mark, thank you. What a blessing for you to come on and to share all this wisdom and information with us. It is just really amazing and will change, I think, for a lot of us, what we're doing, how we're using this. And, I love what our company has done because it really is one-stop shopping. We have these incredible redox signaling molecules. We now have the second generation of that with the Redox Gold. And I think what Dr. Mark is showing us is what we all sort of intuitively know. We're going to learn more and more and more about what these products can do. We're just scratching the surface right now. And having the other things like the nutritionals and the cell performance and the skincare just allows us to have synergy with all those different things. It's pretty absolutely amazing. And we like to talk about the ripple effect because what I love as a practitioner, and Dr. Mark and Dr. Lee, as practitioners, I think you would agree with this. When we're seeing patients in front of us, we're dealing with one person at a time. Here, because we're educating people about a biotechnology that they may not know about or may not even know that they need, we're able to impart information and empower other people to go out and share this with the people that they love and care about. And so it's like being a little stone in a pond with that ripple that goes out and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I started, as most of y'all know, all I wanted was to see if my husband would get better. Really wasn't thinking about this for anybody else, but I couldn't keep it to myself. And I think most of us feel that way. It's a gift that we want to share with others. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Dr. Mark, for being here and for sharing with me.
Wonderful.
And look,
Thank you for having me.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we're going to definitely have you back, Dr. Mark. if you're
Yeah,
open to that.
yeah.
And if you're going on the cruise, bring your helmet. Wouldn't that be fun?
So
Let me just,
next week,
can I just say one more quick thing? And that is, we talked earlier about what we can't claim and what we can claim. The way I view it, and Dr. Mark, you correct me, but we've been talking about structure function things, not diseases. And those are permissible to talk about structure and function with supplements. In other words, what effect does it have on cells and how do they respond to it? And then from there, we extrapolated away as to how it might apply in various situations. So just a point of clarification. Thank you.
thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Next week, we have Dr. Rich Michael. If you want to understand why sometimes doctors and practitioners take a look at this, come hear his grandson's story. So with that, we want to turn the call now over to Dan Doyle and Mal Sorb. You do not want to get off. You want to listen to these two. If you want to hear a story of a life changed, and then a dear friend that saw that life changed, and when he came to the place of need, they changed the world, and they're still doing it to this day. So we are indebted to Danny Doyle and to Mal Sword.
Yeah.
So guys, stick around. Lee, you need to pass the baton over to Dan. Please.
Thanks again, Mark. It was
Thank you,
wonderful.
Dr. Mark. That was beautiful.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
A great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.